Aha, I think we got it. Sorry for the delay, everybody. I'm not techie. Okay, excellent. So please just let me know. Aha, I think we got it. Sorry for the delay, everybody. I'm not techie. Okay, excellent. So please just let me know. Aha, I think we got it. Sorry for the delay, everybody. I'm not techie. Okay, excellent. So please just let me know. Hi. Okay, now, can you just, yes, yes. Okay, are we here? Can you just say in the chat if you see me? Sorry about this delay. All righty. Hmm. All right. I had two problems because I was on a Zoom, but then it took me to a new link on YouTube and not the link that okay, thanks very much for your comments. I appreciate that. I was on a Zoom link, but then it turns out I should have clicked on the live, another link, not the Zoom, even though it's done via Zoom. So it's just me not cluing in fast enough. So welcome everybody. I see all your messages, all these birth data, these birth times. I'm just going to pick at random this time because really I don't want to set up that expectation that you somehow deserve a reading just by virtue of the fact that you were first. It's not nice energy, and it just ends up making my job more difficult. So I'm just having a look through. And I think what I'd like to do is just begin giving you a couple of thoughts on the Jupiter and Uranus transit. The Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, which is transiting today as we speak and has already been active for several days. And as you know, will continue for another couple of weeks. Do watch my video if you want to know more about that. And what I really wanted to say was when when we are working well with Jupiter, for example, if you want to thrive, if you want to expand into your life, if you want success, if you want wisdom, you must live that way. So it's not possible to get things from Jupiter without doing something as well, meaning that there's an approach towards gratitude. There's an approach towards being generous. There's an approach towards wisdom. And there's an approach towards your own spiritual life that is required. And if you're more interested in receiving than in giving, and you're more interested in, what you can how you can grow in a material way, your Jupiter will not give you much satisfaction. And especially with Uranus in the mix here, we have a lot of different ways that things can go, and things don't always go the way we want them. Like, for example, all of these birth dates are not going to get read tonight. I can promise you that. Within an hour and a half or maximum 2 hours, there's no way. So you have to have some kind of inner resilience to be able to live through the things that you don't get. You don't get things to work out the way you want them. That's the way life goes. And the worst part is that, especially with social media, we've expected this to be like some kind of special place in the astrology which will resolve all the other problems of our lives or all the other issues going on in the globe. And it won't. It just simply won't. And so Jupiter will expand things. It's going to be something that enlarges. It sometimes can be about biting off more than you can chew. It can sometimes be about over promising, over delivering, over expecting, over blowing, overdoing it, as much as it can be of great benefit and bring you lots of wisdom and lots of nice toys as well. So all of these things are possible. We just don't know. And one of the things that really makes it possible for things to go smoothly is your overarching attitude towards your life. And when Jupiter meets Uranus, you have to have a flexible attitude towards your life to be able to seize the opportunities and also to be able to roll with the disappointments. And so this is when I look at your chart, I'm going to be showing you in your chart where some aspects of things do not necessarily go the way that you expect them to, because there's no sort of one size fits all. Sometimes Jupiter is not the best placed planet in a chart, and therefore those aspects of Jupiter don't tend to come through for you. And part of the life promise or the life challenge, it could be, is that you're to expand that Jupiterian energy while you're here. That it's not that you've been kind of shoved in a corner and you lost out on the Jupiterian lottery, but rather that part of your task here is to overcome this this maybe material way of looking at life, and to recognize that there's something bigger in your life than all of those things. So I'm putting that out there because it's some interesting things for your perspective. Hold that thought while you're reflecting on the days and the weeks around this time, and notice what's coming up for you as we go through let's say the couple of months ahead, and certainly the year ahead, as Jupiter is changing signs, moving into Gemini, and then again the 14 years to come, while this new energy is in the background. So somebody says, Jupiter-Uranus is squaring my natal node. Can you touch on this transit aspect? Yeah, in a general sense, anything squaring the nodes is the focal point of a major choice in your life. And so when you have to kind of choose between a way of being or a way of having been, and the way that you want to go, or the way that maybe life is somehow pushing you to go, you need to access that way through the planets that are being squared, or that are squaring the nodes instead. And so the Jupiter-Uranus for your nodal square is saying something in that realm of Taurus at that point of the 21st, 22nd degree needs to change, or that particular change will put you on this trajectory. And you do always have a choice. Do I stay in my comfort zone, or do I go in a different direction? So if it's squaring the nodes, obviously you also have fixed signs in your nodes. I don't know which direction they're going, but either way, it's going to be it'll be nodes in Leo and nodes in Aquarius. And so whichever way it is, you're here to work on integrating that. So squares to the nodes are always very interesting in your personal growth, in your personal development. So think of this as an opportunity to go into a bigger picture of your life. So I'm going to just have a look here. I want to look down through the comments so I can choose a chart. And I have to do this at random, as I said, otherwise I will go crazy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. There's just so many of you. I won't be able to say hello to everybody, but lots of places too, which is fun. Hello from Prague. I used to live in Prague. I lived in Prague in 1990, which was pretty interesting. It was a wonderful time, very interesting. Terrible food at the time. I'm vegetarian, and that was not known in Prague at the time. We had to eat dumplings, pork dumplings, basically everywhere we went. 1990 was not the Prague of today, that's for sure. Venice, Italy, wonderful, wonderful. Dunedin, New Zealand. Okay, look, I'm going to start with the 60s baby. I was actually going to ask for a 60s baby. And we're going to take Patrick. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to take Patrick, and I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to create the chart for Patrick here, and then I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a second. All right. So Patrick, where are we? Yeah. Patrick Kilty. I think I'm saying that correctly. Is it Kilty? My eyesight's not that great these days. So March 30th, 66. So I wanted to take a 66 baby, actually, 65 or 66, because we had in that year, and I'm one of those babies, we had the Pluto-Uranus conjunction. And this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is sextiling that, the degree points of that, especially in 66. So 0335. All right. So Jupiter, this is a night chart for Patrick. I'll show you in just a moment. So that means that Jupiter is not as beneficial in a night chart. And these are the things I want you to understand, because we work with a chart in a different way depending on Yes, it is Patrick. Okay, there we go. I'm going to share my screen and show you this chart that I've just created. Alrighty, so hang on just a moment, folks. Whoop. I need an assistant. If you want me to get an assistant, hit that donation button down below. And I can get myself a virtual assistant. Okay, Patrick, I'm just working with the data that I've got in the chat here, 30th of March, 1966. I'm hoping that I didn't make any mistakes. Hey, Patrick, you're there. Super. Just let me know if I made a mistake. I don't think I did. 30 March 66 on a Wednesday, 3:35 in Toronto. And I have to say, here's something that makes no sense at all, but it is definitely something that I've noticed is that Wednesday's child is full of woe, and people born on a Wednesday tend to have challenges in life. And I'm one of them. And it was only after I started noticing this in other charts that I realized that's actually really interesting. It does kind of pan out that way. Now, Patrick has a 16-degree conjunction of Pluto and Uranus. So this is going to be really broad. It's not going to be exactly a, hang on just a moment, we'll get this up here. There we go, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Hang on, we just want to, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Sorry about that. Right, finally got it. All right, Patrick is in the middle and the conjunction is on the outside. And so this particular conjunction is going to be a little bit broad to the sextile. So sorry, a trine. Yes, it's a trine, not a sextile. Sorry, it's a trine. It's an Earth trine. This is in my own chart too, but I'm just making stuff up. Okay, it's a trine, which is interesting because remember, in '66 we had this conjunction, and now Uranus has moved around the chart this far, and it is now in a trine to itself. Now, again, that's a bit broad. It's a 5-degree trine. It's still, I'll give it to you. That's still really relevant. But the fact that Uranus and Pluto are together in the trine to Jupiter and Uranus is going to make a huge difference. Now, for Patrick, Pluto's moving into the first house. It'll cross the ascendant in 2026 exactly, but it'll be felt in 2025, no doubt. So you're changing quite dramatically anyway. And here with the your natal chart, you're coming up on your Saturn return, which you won't feel until 2025. But Mars is on your Saturn and Chiron conjunction, and retrograde Mercury. So you're having some really interesting reflections on family and money issues, and maybe your sense of self-worth, but also how you can earn money. And this conjunction that is happening today is in a tight conjunction with your North Node. So there's some new direction around home and family for you. You have this Pluto Uranus in the 8th house, so there have been some challenges growing up. And so this might actually highlight something that allows you to go towards feeling secure. There's something here where you're steadying your income or creating something that is more secure in the long run. And this will be something that brings you towards this feeling of stability in the 4th house. And it could be around property. Maybe you're actually taking out a loan or having to work harder to earn money to buy property, or you're working around property, or it can be about establishing a home. And the 4th house, ruled by Venus, which is in your 1st house, could also represent you working from home. What else is Venus ruling? Venus is ruling your 9th house of purpose, and she's ruling that, of course, that 4th house of home. Yeah, it could also be about your family, your family of origin, or your lineage, or your children, the family you've created at this time. So this Jupiter-Uranus for you is going to be about something to do with stabilizing yourself or feeling more secure. It's in a square to Venus. So I'm wondering if you're having a new relationship or some issues around relationship that also will affect your home. And of course, Venus represents money as well. She's ruled by Saturn in the house of money. So that would have been a bit of a slog at times for you, especially as Mercury is in its detriment. and fall. Mercury in Pisces is both detriment and fall because it's in its exaltation and in its sign of rulership when it's in Virgo. So it's a bit of a double whammy. No sweat. I have one too. But especially in the house of money. And anyway, Mercury, when it's not in a happy place, is often problems with money. And so here, what we've got with this Mars, and then next year, your Saturn return, you're going to have to sort this out, whatever the problems with money are. And it's often, especially with this Pisces and that retrograde Mercury in backing up into Chiron, it's going to be something to do with your attitude towards yourself or attitude towards money and your own self-worth. And that often is anyway underpinning our relationship to money, but especially so when Chiron is there and Saturn alongside. So there may have been some kind of family sense of not being good enough. There's a lot of issues here around freedom, wanting to be independent and free. But then there's some obligation here. You've got the moon in the sixth house. And so you might have this feeling of being stuck because you want to be free to do what you like, but you're not able to get away from some kind of burden or a perceived burden. So you got this, the Neptune and South Node here on the midheaven, where you may have been feeling for a long time that you have had to put up a lot of, work hard, really just work hard and perhaps even struggle to get where you wanted to go. But actually, the North Node is taking you down to the fourth house, which suggests that you need to pay attention more to what allows you to feel grounded and secure. So that axis of midheaven and IC, as well as the nodal axis being there, does show that there's some issue anyway, fundamentally in the family around, and that goes back to before you were born. This issue is there already, this trusting issue and an issue of security, financial security. And that's exactly what Uranus and Jupiter are touching on right now. And Uranus will get to 27 degrees. It doesn't quite get to your IC, but it's right at the midpoint between your North Node and your IC when it stations retrograde. And that will be, I think, what is that, September? Late September, I think it is, or late August. I'm sorry, I've forgotten now. But it's coming in the end of the summer. Let's say, I'm going to say September. We'll just say September. And then it will go direct again in January. So I think it must be late August. Did I have a sheet? I should have put all my dates down. Sorry about that. But anyway, look it up. It'll be hovering anyway in the late summer. For sure, around September, it'll be hovering around your North Node. So you're changing direction. And I just want to see if there's any feedback here from Patrick to see if I'm off course entirely or if there's something there that resonates listening. So Patrick, can you just let me know what seems to be going on? Because this is it could also entail working from home or a decision. Well, I mean, who isn't working from home nowadays? But anyway, it can also entail a desire to shift the way that you work that actually can affect your home. And then equally because Pluto has been trining your IC and sextiling your midheaven also for the last 2 years. So, and then the year before, so for 3 years, you've had Pluto in a trine to your North Node as well. So your whole direction in life is changing in some way. I'm not seeing, yes, bang on, okay. So yeah, I think Patrick, really what it is that you're now needing to change something about what you thought your direction was. It's not as much related to your work outside in the world outside. Doesn't mean you shouldn't work outside. It's a lot more to do with what you need in terms of your personal, your psychological, your physical, your emotional security. And if you felt that that was not there for you, because it looks like issues of authority are a bit wobbly for you, and that runs a bit through the family, and so that may have been that your parents were not terribly predictable or easy to rely on, let's say, and so there may be some latent need, a need for you to become your own authority, and that would be for me the North Node there. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking responsibility for what you need, and especially in that second house, stabilizing with Saturn now, in your Saturn return second time Think back to 19, what would it be, 1995. In 1995 and 1996, you would have had your first Saturn return. So go back to that period of time and see what was playing around there, and then go back also to 2010 and early 2011, January 2011, and notice that your something about money was going on that last time, because the very last time that Saturn and that Uranus and Jupiter were conjunct was on your natal Black Moon Lilith. So there's something in the second house that's pissing you off. That's kind of my short form for Black Moon Lilith, that has you feeling humiliated or not seen or not treated well. This might have something to do with siblings as well. There may be something, including sibling rivalry, that may be an obstacle for you feeling your own value. You may have actually had problems with a brother in some way, that you had difficulties finding your own space at home. Anyway, I think I'll have to leave that there. So I hope parents' comments, yeah. So this is the thing, because there's some confusion here around authority, and so I think this is really an opportunity for you to get your sense of inner value and your inner authority. Jupiter, that rules your house of money, is in the fifth house of creativity and is ruled by that Mercury, which is in the second house, retrograding back into Chiron. It's always interesting when you see a retrograde planet, look where it's going back into. It's not just a random thing that stands alone. Look, where is the planet moving back into? And there's something here. Mercury is going back to Chiron, it's going back to Saturn, and it needs to heal that energy. So take that on board when you see, especially the fast-moving planets like Mercury, Venus, etc. Not so much with the outer planets, because anyway, they're not personal to us, but it definitely. Oh, Lily. Oh, look at that. I've done Lily's chart as well without even knowing it. She says it's almost like my life. So yeah, so this is something to keep in mind, because your Jupiter return is coming up in 2025 as well. You're gonna have your Saturn return as well as your Jupiter return, and they will be squaring each other again, just like it is in your natal chart. And those babies, the 1966 babies, we almost all of us have this. So join the club. But yeah, so this is uh, because your personal value seems to depend on your ability to express yourself and your capacity to kind of stretch into your life. Um, this is something that might come through writing, for example. It might come through whatever way you express yourself. But the Jupiter and Gemini, not in great dignity, in the fifth house, can have you partying a little bit too much or not taking things terribly seriously, and therefore losing steam at times. Not taking yourself seriously would also depend on your own value. So this is now where Pluto comes in, and I'll leave it here, where we have this feeling of a total rewriting of what your life is all about. And so now you're changing yourself and the way that you feel about yourself. So that moon in the sixth house can have you working too hard. The moon is in good dignity, but the moon in the sixth house, especially with the Neptune up there with the South Node and the midheaven, it might mean that, again, you kind of feel obliged. It's not so much working through because you're joyously working, it's because you feel like you have to. Yeah, so this is it. I think you're working on something that's really quite profound at the moment. And anyway, when the bigger, slower moving planets move through the bottom of the chart, you want, for all of you, you want to really work deep on who am I? Fundamentally understanding your root needs, understanding your family, understanding your lineage, understanding your relationship to your early childhood, and how all of those things affect you today. And certainly this will have been a big part of Patrick's story. All right. So I'll just take some more now. I'm going to go randomly. Let's see if I can take another generation, see who's there. Okay. So we have a baby from 1980. Shall we try that? So Joshnik, I think it is. I'll keep going back and forth randomly. So 3 p.m. I hope that's a reliable time because when times are rounded, I'm always a wee bit suspicious. So I'll put the wrong thing in there. 13 August. 1500 in Thessalonica. I love Thessaloniki as well. There's you all come from very beautiful places today. Greece. Let's see if I spelled it correctly. Yeah, it was not found in Greece, therefore I didn't spell it correctly. There we go. There we are. All right. So, right, here we go. So we have 1500 on 13 August 1980 in Thessaloniki, and it's Josh Nick, and I hope I've got that correctly. Yes. Righty-ho. So we have a Scorpio rising, and this conjunction is happening on close to Chiron, and it's the Uranus opposition, woohoo, at the same time, and in a square to the Sun and the nodes. Wow. Okay. So really, what's not changing in your life is the question. Look at that. It's trying. I'm glad I took this chart. Woof. We'll be here for a while. It's trining the moon. It's trining Saturn. It's squaring the Sun and North Node conjunction, and it's an opposition to Uranus. So here we have a situation where there may have been a sense of, and you have a Pluto-Mars conjunction with Lilith in the 12th. Okay, so let me just absorb this here because that's a lot. Already the eclipse would have impacted you quite strongly with Mars ruling the eclipse from the opposition through the 12th house, and you've had the South Node crossing all of that point since January. Right. All right. So when we have the Uranus, I'm going to start with the easy parts. When we have the Uranus opposition, this is where we start to look at our lives and think, gosh, there's so much about my life that I don't like anymore. It doesn't fit. I don't like it. I don't like the person I'm sleeping with. I don't like the car I drive. I don't like the job I'm doing. In your case, it might be about the person you're sleeping with because it's in the first and seventh house axis. Or it could be, I don't like the fact that I'm single. That's a potential as well. All of that is possible. But the response to from some people is, Botox, sports car, mistress, or lover. Go wild, take a year off, go live it up on Bali or something. And that would be avoiding the work that needs to be done. Because here we see there's an enormous amount of issues about fitting in. And this feeling of not fitting in is it affects your self-esteem, and it affects your way of showing up in the world. And with the North Node on the Sun, there's a need for you to show up in the way that expresses yourself uniquely. However, there is your father or father figures or important male figure may have actually been a bit of an overshadowing you. The Sun and the nodes are squaring Uranus. And when the nodes are squaring a planet, we need to own that planet, or we need to absorb it, let's say, integrate that planet into our lives. And you've got Uranus in the first house, close to the ascendant. It's still an 8-degree or 7.5-degree conjunction. So it's not super tight, but it's close enough. And because of that square, it's the Uranus that needs to change. That means that you need to show up differently. Now, you probably don't even live where you were born, because with all this kind of activity in your chart, it suggests that you would have gone away from home, that you would have at the very least wanted to go away from home. Jupiter is ruling your IC from where? Yeah, on the MC. So maybe you had to leave home for work. Or for your vision of your life that wasn't like what your family wanted, for example. There is this thing about not fitting in can have you behaving in such a way that you're not yourself until you find this space of being yourself. So you show up in a way that is not necessarily authentically you. And the Uranus, when it's there, it's squaring the nodes. It's saying, this is what you need to be. You need to be unique and different. Now, with the Jupiter-Uranus opposition from the seventh house, it can be that you're getting some feedback or you're mirroring something from a relationship, either that is not yet there for you or it's just new, or that you are ready to let go of as well. So the sun, which rules your chart, is moving through the seventh, or not, it doesn't rule your chart, it rules your 10th house, is moving through the seventh house. So this could be a new relationship. It could be something that comes through. 10th house is social status. It's what you, it's, single, not single, married, not married, with kids, with no kids. Josh, Nick, spot on. Okay, so we're going in the right direction. Okay, and so yeah, so the sun at the moment is sextiling Venus. So am I spot on about you meeting somebody? I need to know that so I can go in that direction or not. Not to embarrass you. If you're not in a relationship, that's fine too. Some of the best of us aren't. Um, yeah, so this is something that is definitely changing the way you feel about yourself and the feeling of being an outsider or the feeling of not belonging. And that Uranus is saying it's good that you don't belong because you aren't like these people. You should not be like these people. They're maybe not even good for you. We see that there can be some real tension in home and family, um, and including between your parents. I think your parents didn't really get along, and so there was some tension there. Um, and therefore, you might have a bad image of what a relationship is as well. So I'm not seeing any more comments there about Josh, but Saturn is coming over your IC 3 times this year. So that means it's opposing your MC, your midheaven, and it's opposing your Jupiter. Next year, it will be opposing your Saturn and your moon. So you are changing something about either love relationships or children, living abroad, single, big time outsider. Well, good. So you're right on target. But the thing is, you want to be an outsider from the place of I belong to everywhere and I don't have to fit in. So it's not about cloning yourself or needing to fit in. It's about being the outsider, but recognizing that that's a quality that you have to master in this lifetime because that square to the nodes, the Uranus squaring the nodes, is saying you need to show up differently. And it can also be that there is a need for you to, um, in a way, act with a different kind of integrity than your family. And I'm trying to be very delicate here because we're public. But there may have been some issues around the family integrity or the way the family connected that were not necessarily easy. And as a result, your model for relationship and your model for what is success may be a little bit wounded. And so you want to get to the point where you really get to show up exactly as you are. Um, Somebody else says that she has Scorpio rising and a 19 Libra sun. So there you go. Yeah, the nodes will have affected you very profoundly with that Mars and Pluto conjunction. So relationships are part of the learning curve here. And again, these are patterns that go back a long way. It's a challenging combination to have the Leo and the Scorpio rising with the Leo sun. That's a challenging combination. Um, there might be something even in the family that runs around military, some military. That could be one way that this energy expresses itself. But it can also just be around aggression or something like that. Right. So I'm hoping that makes sense to you. When Saturn crosses well, in opposition to your MC and Jupiter, that is your opportunity also to change the way that you work and also potentially also changing the way that you the way that you are in relationship, in showing up in a relationship. Jupiter in the seventh, paradoxically, is not always good for relationships because Jupiter tends to bring out what is good for you. And so this can actually be more about learning what is necessary for you in terms of how you are in relationship and with whom. And so it's not necessarily going to sort of present you a relationship. When Jupiter moves into your eighth house, then that will also be an opportunity for you. It could be an opportunity for you to develop more intimacy, feel more comfortable with somebody, meeting somebody you might meet right now. Not to say you can't meet somebody, especially with that vibe. I'm not seeing any more feedback, so okay. But when Jupiter goes in the eighth, then you're going to have an opportunity to really dig deep into your family experience, because that will be in a square to your natal Jupiter, your midheaven, the moon, the Saturn, and everything over this period from late May until mid-June of 2025. And that because Jupiter rules your house of love and children and creativity, entrepreneurship, it will pull some of that in. It also rules your money house. And so you might find new and creative ways of working in a more creative expression to earn more money, or to have, if you're working with clients, for example, that's an excellent transit for you. But it can also be that your that fifth house and second house are boosting your esteem, your self-esteem, and you're finding somebody who matches who you are today. And the be careful on with the Uranus on the ascendant, especially in Scorpio, ruled by a Mars in the 12th house, which is not comfortable in Leo, in Libra, even with the sun in Leo on the North Node. Be careful that you don't make yourself so unavailable, meaning that unconsciously you set yourself so far apart that you can't connect with people. Because sometimes it's a self-sabotage thing, and especially with the ruler of the chart, the ruler of the ascendant in the 12th house. And so you want to look at, how am I setting myself up for being alone? How am I setting myself up for not connecting? And in that sense, you've got a lot that you can work with. So if you recognize that, then you're like, yeah, okay, I see it now. I see the pattern. And then you can let go of this feeling that you need to be any particular way. So there is a bit of insecurity here with the South Node in Aquarius, something to do with your home. Maybe there's even a bit of shame around home and family. And again, that's this ancestral stuff. You're dealing with a long story here. This is the story you come in. The natal chart is the transit chart of the parents. So this is already ongoing. Think about that for all of you. Your natal chart was what was occurring at the time that you were born. Your parents are just humming along, and then plop, you come in the middle of like Act 3. So okay, so I don't see anything more. Right, I think we're good. So yeah, Josh, Nick, make the best of this, because this is an opportunity for you to really start to appreciate how different you are. And because this Jupiter Uranus is changing, it can also potentially change where you live. Again, I mentioned that with the Saturn, but this can be some surprise offer, and it might come through business partnership as well. A surprise offer that has you moving. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. So great, and good luck then with all of that. So let's see who else we can find. I'll see if I can mix it up a little bit with the years, so we have different ages coming in. Oh, look, we have a little baby here from 95. So Sanaya, is it Sanaya? Sanaya, I'm going to say Sanaya, and I apologize, Sania. Oh, it's from Islamabad, so it must be Sania. Hello, Sania. Righty ho, let's do a new chart for Sania. And the date was 11th, so November 15th. My God, I remember 1995. Isn't that funny? Now doing charts for people at this age. All right, so 1537. And that is Islamabad, Pakistan. Righty ho. Oh, okay. And did I miss something here? 151195, 1537, Islamabad. Okay, excellent. Let's go. Aries rising with the South Node on the ascendant. And it's squaring just for the fun. We get another square with Uranus. Look at that. It's two different generations, 15 years apart. Still squaring Uranus. So when the nodes square Uranus, you heard what I was saying, right? This is where you need, in this case, you need to show up in terms of taking responsibility and your relationship to authority. You're still a part of that generation of the Uranus and Neptune conjunction. And Pluto has just been jumping back and forth over your Uranus for the last couple of years. And that means you had Pluto squaring the nodes also for, I'm going to say, up to 3 years, because that pulls in your, yeah, I mean, it's essentially during the whole COVID time that Pluto has been on your natal Neptune, squaring the ascendant descendant axis, and then squaring your nodal axis on your Uranus. So that would have changed you quite a bit, and it has a lot to do with authority. I suspect that you might have woken up a little bit to who has authority over me. Would have probably been the big waking up moment for you the last few years. This is the Sun and Mercury in the eighth house, and that's ruled by Mars, which is also your chart ruler, your ascendant ruler. You're not supposed to say chart ruler, but I say it always as a short form. So ascendant ruler Mars with Venus and Jupiter, and your Pluto into Sagittarius. Okay, I'm talking out loud, everybody, so don't worry if this doesn't make sense to you. This is how I think to myself. Right, yeah. So I wonder if your family worked in the military. Twice Mars. That's not easy. So there's a whole bunch of when that Mars energy, the wartime military, these kinds of things play a big role when you have Aries and Scorpio together, or double Aries, double Scorpio. This kind of thing can be quite intense and can involve military. I'm not seeing any comments there. So what I see here with the conjunction for you in the second house in opposition to that Sun, which is ruled by the Mars in the ninth with the ruler of the ninth and the ruler of the 12th. This is something to do with perhaps moving or needing to change your work or becoming more aware of your own value, because it's sextiling Saturn, which is also ruled by Jupiter. You have a good Jupiter, it's a strong Jupiter, but it's right alongside Mars, and that poses a problem simply because Mars itself is a little bit erratic when it's in Sagittarius. It can kind of be very impulsive. Jupiter, Mars, Venus up in the ninth can be either idealistic or an ideologue, or it can be impulsive energy, which may have got you in a bit of trouble because it's all in a trine to Eris, where somehow on the level of self, you may not feel your value. And I think with the South Node often on the ascendant, we often see people who don't like themselves, or they don't like their appearance, or there's a feeling of not being okay, not being somehow okay. And I wonder, with all this Mars and the Venus-Mars conjunction, I wonder if your parents wanted a boy. And so it's not a personal thing, of course, but it's that there is some sort of feeling of not being okay in the form that you come out, in the way that you are. Moon is in Leo, so it's also in a trine to all that Jupiter Mars, and it's in a square to the Sun. So I suspect your parents didn't get along terribly well either. And the Moon it's a square to, or rather a trine to the South Node, and sextiling the North Node. And so you might find yourself, again, it's maybe that rebellious quality where you really want to be seen, you really want to show up in a way, but you're not necessarily accepted. The Moon is ruling the fourth house, where we find Black Moon Lilith on the IC. yeah, I would wish we could talk because then I'd be more confident about what I can say. I'm not sure if there's anything written in here about the chart. I'm not seeing any so far any feedback. Um, but yeah, so I think second house conjunction can have something to do with you needing to have a new sense of what you're supposed to be doing or the career that you might have, or the sun can represent the father or the male figures in your life as well, and that can be something to do with males, and it can also be around income, straight up income. Jupiter is ruling your 12th house and your ninth house, as I said. And so you might also have this feeling of, with all that energy, you may not live any longer in Pakistan. I wonder, because that usually shows again that there's a move, there's a desire to leave home or to go away from home for some reason. And here with the trine of Uranus to, you've all this last couple of years, Uranus has been trining your midheaven and sextiling your IC, so that may have had you want to move as well. And then it's trining your Neptune this year, and it will station retrograde on your trine to Uranus. So you're changing your vision for yourself. You're changing your sense of ambition, perhaps based on your value. And Jupiter is contributing to that. So there may be something really new that you're experiencing about yourself at around this time. And this is, remember, a seeding moment. So it may not be so clear yet, but the energy has already been building with this trinal energy. And then you're going to have the Uranus, when it reverses and goes back to station direct, it will station direct in an exact trine to your Neptune. So it can be about changing your value, changing your sense of what you're here for in terms of your social status or your career ambition, your what you do outside the home. And in that trine to Neptune, it can have you reconsidering, which is all this year basically, reconsidering what you believe in terms of your own faith, in terms of your sense of spiritual belief, and it can also be about what you believe is again an authority figure, because this is part of the story, ongoing story. Yeah, there's a lot here, and it's some things I'd really like to ask you about before I ramble on, because there's some things that I think could be interesting to delve deeper into. But I think you want to start to get clear where you lose confidence in yourself, where you undermine your own happiness by, again, it's a little bit like what I said before, but for different reasons, that you might submit to other people's ideas of what you're here for. And you anyway carry that rebellious quality with the Uranus in Capricorn in the 10th house. And especially as it's squaring the nodes, you're somehow learning how to be different, learning how to show up differently. So you're not going to be like your family. And with Pluto going through the 11th house, that's going to change your vision for your life as well. It's going to change the people you spend time with and the vision for your life. Right. I'm not seeing any Sunia. Okay, I hope that I've been saying that correctly. I just saw that now. Thank you. Sunia. So, no military. Okay. Is there somebody who, is there any, what you might describe as violence around the home, or any kind of feeling of authoritarianism, or feeling of a lot of authority at home when you were growing up? I'm not sure if I'm able to go through this without having feedback, but um, yeah, super chat. You're very kind. I don't monetize my channel. I decided that I don't want to. I don't want to earn money from Google. Just research Google and Alphabet and find out why. Um, yeah, so I don't take money from Google, and so please, if you're happy to donate, I'd be delighted, and you can find a donate button in the chat, because I don't take money from YouTube. Um, right. Okay, and I think I'm going to have to leave it there, because it's really we could get really deep into the weeds. Try not to freak out. Be following you. The authority and career chain things seems ring true. Yeah, that's kind of a purpose in life right now. And that Jupiter-Uranus is activating that, if you like. There's no need to freak out. It's really about taking on your own value. It's that. It's about changing a relationship to self. The Jupiter-Uranus opposing the sun. The sun is our sense of self. It's our sense of purpose as well. It's in the money house. It's also the house of family, and it's in a square to your moon. And so moving, changing career, changing your sense of identity, changing a source of income, all of these are really likely. And I would even say necessary as you to get to the place where you want to go. And anyway, with the North Node eclipse carrying on in your first house, um, the South Node will cross your Chiron in the house of relationship, where you're hesitant about relationships, you're uncomfortable, or you're not entirely sure around relationships. And then when the South Node crosses that Chiron, it's an opportunity for you to let go of the feeling of not belonging or the feeling of not being comfortable or safe in relationships. So think of it that way. Never freak out. It's all about how can I grow? Think of these things in that sense. How can I grow? Right. I'll just choose another one. Let's go back. Mm, all right. So we have February 8th, 1974. Let's for changing of the decades, we'll just change. And I don't know the name. I'm just going to put nurse because it says the nurse artist. So this is the 8th of February, 12:15. I have the sun right in my eyes, so I keep having to move away from Brownsville. Okay. Texas. I hope I'm seeing that correctly. Brownsville. Hang on. I think that might be a spelling mistake. Is that possible? Yeah, I'd say it could be Brownsville. Is that Brownsville? I'm going to say that's Brownsville because Brownsville doesn't make sense to me. Let me double check if there's anything here. Okay, you do still live in Pakistan debating a move. Well, I'd say this is the year to move. This would be it. Yeah, Sunia, this is your year for moving because doesn't have to be bang on this conjunction. It doesn't have to be right now, but it's going to happen uh, to improve your sense of self and your life. All right, let's go here to find the nurse from Brownsville. Sorry, I just have to keep lurking in the shadows here so I don't get the sun in my eyes. 8th of February 74, 12:15. I hope that's correct. Yeah, Brownsville. There we go. Right. Alrighty. And what we find here is the Taurus rising, and this conjunction is happening on the Mars and squaring the Sun. Lots going on there. Squaring Jupiter conjunct the Sun up in the 10th house. You've had your Chiron return the last 3 years or last 2 years, 2.5 years. And that'll be over now this year. You'll be happy to hear, but it's still very much part of the eclipse that we had. And so that would be, showing you something really, really important for your growth, for your personal growth. And that also comes, by the way, we mentioned this earlier with Patrick. There's a feeling, for a different reason, a feeling of not fitting in. But that is actually much more universal. It's like I don't belong on this planet, kind of not fitting in. So maybe some doubt around your self-esteem, but at the same time, it's like a real feeling of get me out of here. And Saturn is on the South Node, and Mars in the first house suggested that it wasn't so easy when you were growing up um, around home, that there was a lot of restriction around home. You want a lot more freedom than you were given. Mm, um, 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 uh, Right. And so the Jupiter-Uranus on Mars there is suggesting that there's a different way for you to take action or to express yourself through your self-assertion as opposed to aggression. Mars in Taurus, especially in the first house, can be very stubborn. Just had to say that. And you've got Jupiter and the Sun in Aquarius, and Aquarius is also potentially very stubborn. Not trying to call you out, but it's a bit like that. Those are the archetypes. And so what I mean by that is that there can be a tendency to resist change. And the Mars on the first house can have you a bit defensive, and that can be for good reason. There may be some reason growing up that you needed to be a little defensive, and it could have been something to do with siblings, for example. That, or your mother may have been a bit hypercritical as well. There's the moon is trining that Mars in from Virgo. Moon in Virgo moms can be quite judgmental, and then you internalize that and you can feel that yourself. And that Pluto in the sixth can have you feel sort of almost like compelled to have to be there for everybody else, more so than for yourself. You have a strong sense of duty, that's for sure. And so maybe that Jupiter and Uranus on your Mars is an opportunity for you to shake up some ways that you're perhaps undermining yourself. That Chiron in the 12th, Chiron in Aries, is perhaps where your self-esteem undermines your self-esteem undermines your own success. You know, that you can doubt yourself and not be successful because of self-doubt, or a feeling of when you have this feeling of not fitting in, it can separate you out from opportunities that otherwise they're not problematic from other people's points of view. They're problematic more from your own fear of not fitting in. That can be something like that. With Mercury in the 11th house, ruled by Jupiter, there can be lots of acquaintances, but not so many friends that you can really feel you rely on. And so there can be this feeling of not being sure how you fit in, which may not be a problem. Some people are actually, quite happy like that. It's not that you have to fit in. But with the Sun in Aquarius, there is already a certain doubt around oneself. It's difficult to find out, who am I? And it's in a direct square to Mars. So there's a tension there with, I think, parents that didn't really get along, and then maybe you not getting along from your father. Self-esteem related to success. Yeah, that's a lot to do with your dad. So try and heal that relationship with your father. And he also had this, by the way. Your father was also lacking self-esteem and had some issues around that defensive kind of nature. And so you're picking up on that, what's already there from, again, like you're born into these things, so this is already there. Right. And so, yeah, you're going to have Jupiter moving through your second house, which for a year. So that is going to be, yeah, you don't mind being alone, but that's fine. Nobody, we don't have to do the whole, thing about family and kids and, the whole standard thing. There's no standard way of living a life. And you also have the Pluto and Uranus in Libra. Uranus in Libra is often where people are really comfortable on their own, actually, and it's ruled by Venus up there with Lilith. So just be careful that the reason that you're on your own is not from unresolved trauma. Again, I'm referring to the father or the relationship that you saw between your parents. There's something there that may not have established a really healthy image. So the sun moving in here in the first house for the next month is going to highlight a lot of what you think of and what you need and so on. And it's also right now, for the last few days, it's been squaring your midheaven. So it's highlighting also what you do. And the midheaven has Black Moon Lilith directly on it in a conjunction with Venus. And as a result of that, there's something here that suggests that you don't feel your worth, you don't feel seen, or you don't feel honored or acknowledged in some way, in the way that you are either seeing authority or dealing with authority, or the way that you show up around authority. And Uranus is squaring that, and squaring Venus, which rules it. So there is this kind of hesitancy around connection, relationships, authority figures, and your own value. And I think that is the thing to focus in a little bit while we've got this really brilliant cycle in your first house of Jupiter-Uranus on your Mars. How do I take action? Perhaps how do I stand up for myself as well? Squaring the sun. What do I do in the world? Squaring your Jupiter. What am I? What am I? How do I see myself? You know, square Jupiter can give you real new sense of vision in terms of your higher purpose. And we're going to give that a trine as well, the Jupiter in a trine to Venus, Lilith, and the midheaven, because it's 4 to 5 degrees. And of course, that Venus is ruling the Jupiter in your first house, ruling your ascendant, which is one of the reasons that Mars is not so happy there. Mars hates accommodating. Mars is all about action. Let's do this thing. Let's get this done. And Taurus is like, hang on, just slow down. Not so sure. And or takes control because of that feeling of not so sure. So this is an opportunity to shake it up. And do you need to defend yourself, or do you feel unseen with authority? Seeking entrepreneur from home, healing channeled artist. Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, South Node going through your sixth house says that somehow you're changing your everyday work and the kind of day-to-day life that you lead. You'll probably feel that more manifesting when the North Node moves into your 11th house of your future. But I would say, do figure out what was going on between you and your father's image of himself and the image that set for you around authority. Because with Saturn on the South Node, it feels heavy and possibly domineering, and so it's difficult to feel you have the capacity to make your own choices. And the Jupiter Sun suggests that your father took up a lot of space, but mostly from insecurity, not so much from a feeling of security. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. Nurse, good luck with that. All right, I will see who else we've got in here. Well, we 74. Let's see if we can find another decade. All right, so we've got a 1986 chart. We'll go to the 80s for a change. And that is Crow. I don't know if that's your name or just a handle, but Crow, we're going to call you. And that's the 2nd of January, 1986. And that is in Douala. Oh, wait, what time? 2:31. Oh, 2. Cameroon. Did you know that Cameroon and Canada are the only 2 countries that have French and English as their national language? And I'll bet you did, because Canadians and Cameroonians know those things. Since I grew up in Canada, it was one of the little things that we learn. We're the only 2 countries that have that configuration. All right, so oh, nice. In your 7th house again, we have another 7th house. This is a Scorpio rising, and another South Node, this time with Pluto in the 1st house. What do we got here? Right. So last year you would have had quite a big change. Like April, May of last year, those eclipses would have been extremely influential for you. And I would say that as now this is trining your moon. The Pluto-Uranus conjunction in your 7th house is trining your moon in the 11th, and it's squaring your Jupiter. It's a pretty good square. It's like 3.5 degrees or so. So that's quite tight. And so you're looking at something that is based on, go back to last year, because I think this is part of the story here for you in terms of going to where this moon is hoping to go. In the 11th house of your future and your groups and how you fit in and your your good fortune as well, the things that you do in groups and associations, whether that's political or just with friends or creative or spiritual groups. Um, Mercury rules that moon from the second house of money, so this has something to do with the money that you earn. And then where's the sun going from the third? So maybe you're in business for yourself. The sun is there with Venus, but it's also there with Neptune. So you might have had some money troubles. Where's Saturn again? Saturn. Hello, Saturn. Sometimes I can't find planets, and it's interesting because then it often feels like um, they're castaways. And there we have Saturn by itself opposing Chiron. So there is something here about your self-worth or your self-esteem with regards to family potentially, um, and that has something to do with your the way that you earn money. This can also be something to do with siblings. Uh, Maybe you had to take on a lot of responsibility for your family growing up. You had to take care of them, maybe. I wonder, did you have to? I just moved to Malta from Belgium. Hey, Belgium. I live in a house with a lot of people and I feel very left out. It's hard. Um, hmm. Yeah, this is where the relationship energy is very interesting because, of course, where you live now is changing. Pluto is squaring the sun, or the sun is squaring Pluto rather, and so that's changing your where do I live kind of sense, this feeling of home and the actual physical home that you live in. Um, and and with Pluto going through there, it's 20 years. It's the way that you live in the home that you live in is going to change. But before we get there, the relationship energy is what's changing. The focus is there. And because there's something here about not trusting in your natal chart, there's an issue here around not trusting, not feeling safe. This is, by the way, again, what your parents were experiencing, something here that is that requires a certain feeling of looking for your financial security or your actual security, physical security. 1986 in Cameroon. Cameroon was pretty calm-ish in those days, so I don't know what was going on in your family life. Trying to start a solo activity, had money problems in the past that ended last year. That's good news. My dad had stolen my savings. Yes, something's here with the family. The family cast you out. Listen, that's hard, and it is super difficult when a family does these kinds of things. But the way I see it is your family is, if I dare say, toxic. There's something not good about this situation. And so you want to understand that that almost was a favor, and so I don't feel safe in relationships in general, meet a lot of manipulative people. That's the Pluto on the South Node. So you have to take your own power. This is what you need to, this is a big lesson for you with Pluto on the South Node. It's really tight. That's like a 13 arc minutes of a degree conjunction. So this is past life stuff. It's stuff coming through that you need to deal with. You need to figure this out because it will continue to feel like oppression until you figure out your own power. And otherwise, you're going to constantly attract people who may be bullying or maybe taking advantage of you, manipulating, and so on. And you need to find your own power. And this can be part of that spark, that Jupiter-Uranus spark, that allows you to feel what it is that you need in a relationship, how you want to go forward in a relationship, and also bring in new partners. Jupiter-Uranus in a trine to your moon, by the way, is really good fortune in terms of finding a new place, new place to live. And because the moon represents home as well. Your family moved to Brussels. Your dad was expat. The situation here in the house reflects my family life. Interesting. It's very triggering. Well, no doubt. You see, the thing is, you're looking at something that's a karmic pattern that's really, really intense. You've got Saturn in a semi-square from the house of family, and it's ruling Jupiter. So Saturn and Jupiter are in what's called a mutual exchange. And so it suggests that there's some tension here between the house of family, the house of home, like literal, where do I live? I feel scared of my power and not sure how to overcome it. It's because you're still focused on the fear that might exist from your childhood. Who was the external authority? I wonder if it's about a brother. Was there somebody in your family who who had an alcohol problem as well? Was there somebody who wasn't managing themselves well? And also somebody else has Pluto conjunct South Node. So power, yeah, you want to understand who am I? And that's another thing about Jupiter. Jupiter is always about this understanding of the wisdom, the higher understanding of life. And Jupiter will bring things that you need. It doesn't necessarily bring things that you want. And that's why I want to keep emphasizing to people that Jupiter is not Santa Claus. It's not like you write a list and then he gives you all these things. It's like Jupiter brings you what you need to grow emotionally, spiritually, grow in abundance and having a sense of abundance. That's important. So here, what you're looking for is harmony in relationship through that Taurus, Venus ruled Taurus. Venus is in the third house. You are well configured to teach, for example, or write or communicate in some way. You probably do that with a great deal of facility in a number of languages. But really, you're here in terms of a sort of the overall mission or quality of your life is to figure out how to be in your own power within relationship. So that Pluto, in the beginning, it feels like a defensive mechanism, especially with Mars there at the same time. This is all on the ascendant. So there's a reason you felt defensive growing up. I suspect, and again, I said this to somebody earlier, but I suspect that you were not wanted. And I say that with all love. It's not that you were not wanted, it's that this baby was not wanted. And if that's not the way that it was that they did not want a girl. And so whatever is there, there's a feeling of not being safe, and potentially that the pregnancy they wanted to terminate, and that this is a feeling that you get that you're like a burden somehow, or you don't fit in. Let's just see what's coming here. Don't know about alcohol. One of my uncles, illegitimate child. This is it. You see, I performed well or better than my other siblings. My parents hated it, and the theme repeats when I get cast out. Yeah, marketing is very good. Yeah, that's very, very good for you. So here's the thing. Because you were a surprise, you were not part of the plan. The relationship was the plan, and you were not part of the plan. There is a sense of not belonging. I don't belong. And what happens is unconsciously you make that mean that I have no value and I don't fit in because nobody wants me. But actually that was circumstantial. It's not about you, you see? It's not you that nobody wanted. It's this baby because all they wanted was probably great sex, and that they didn't want to have baby. My mom cheated on my dad, and she tried to kill me as a baby, and I never celebrated my birthday. And that's another phenomenon. When somebody is not wanted, often, and that can be for a number of different reasons, just like, oh my God, we've got 6 kids and here's a seventh on the way. It's like Christ. And yet at the same time, the child is loved. It's not, but it's the feeling is there. It's in utero, it's even before, and that's what we grow up with. And so when you have this feeling of not being wanted, you don't fit in, and you find yourself always unconsciously excluding yourself where nobody else is actually excluding you. And so you set yourself up to be excluded. You see, the moon is here in a tight square to Uranus. And so you always have this feeling of I'm separate, I'm different, I'm not like that. But it's actually this is the relationship with your mother that shows that this kind of shows that there's this distance in the relationship that you couldn't rely on your mother. Now, the important thing here is screw them. It doesn't matter. This is about living your life so that you live your life in the way that you need to. And you recognize that they gave you this body, they gave you this life, they gave you this chance, and you have this opportunity. And the fact that they were not able to be with you, right, she tried to terminate. Yeah, but you're here. You see, you're a survivor. You've got Pluto on the south node with Mars, which says, yeah, I came through hell and high water to get here. So what are you going to do? You're going to give up after all that? After working so hard to get here, you're not going to give up. And so what you have to understand is it is something about your family that is the problem, not you. Okay. So you're not the one that they didn't want. It's the baby that they didn't want. So you have to really depersonalize this. Now that's not super easy for all of this Scorpio, because Scorpio is takes everything very personally and very emotionally. This is also where you're moving away from. The scorpionic sting, or this feeling of resentment, can be really strong, and you can hang on to that, but it'll burn you up from the inside out. So you have to let go of that, and you come to this point of getting into that Venusian quality of self-nurturance and harmony and connection with other people, coming from the place of, here I am, I'm different, and I want me, I'm choosing me, so I'm good enough for myself, and therefore I'm good enough for anybody else. But be careful of that defensiveness, because it's very possible that you're pushing people away who would be really happy to be with you. That you're the one actually unconsciously pushing yourself away. So just be careful of that. Part of your midheaven is in Leo. You're meant to be here and show up, you see. Can I work with food? I love baking and would love to. Leo, that's North Node in Taurus. Hey ho, look at that. North Node in Taurus. Mars rules your sixth house from the first house. Yeah, you've got Venus conjunct Neptune, which is extremely creative as well. And that's in the third house of practical skills. Um, so for sure, why not? And you've got Jupiter, your money house is ruled by Jupiter, which is in your fourth house. So you could bake at home and make money from that, you see? Um, it's also ruling your fifth house of children and your creativity. So again, this is where Saturn is. When Saturn goes through the fifth house, very often you can turn what you do and what you love to do into a career, into an actual job, like an entrepreneurial type of thing, not a job that you are employed by, but what you do, you see? How do I find the people who will be good friends if the Pluto placement keeps sending me men? No, no, no. Pluto's not doing anything. It's your experience of yourself that is attracting those people. It's because you don't believe you have the right to exist. You have to figure out how to give yourself permission to exist. And once you give yourself permission to exist, nobody has to push you around. Nobody has to manipulate you. It's because you have this profound self-doubt about your own value. And that's Saturn in the second house, you see. That's coming with all the other stuff. I'm just short forming here. And so go through family constellations work, figure that out through that. Go through hypnosis to help you overcome this feeling of inadequacy, and just practice, practice, practice self-love every single day. Say, life is not personal. I am nothing is happening to me, especially astrology is not happening. This is something I really want to emphasize to everyone here. Way too often I keep hearing people say, oh, in the comments, it'll be like, oh, I have this thing happening to me, and it's just awful. It's like, no, that's not what this is for. You're meant to grow through all this stuff. Nothing's happening to you. You see, nothing is coming at you. There is no outside. You see this? It's all us. It's all part of our energy. We're just picking up on energy that we're resonating with. Okay. Right, you get it, right? So you see, this is about an inside job here, and that makes you very powerful. By the way, Pluto on the ascendant and Pluto on the south node. You are coming from a place of power, overcoming, and that comes through past lives for sure. So, with Mars, the ruler in the first house, you are here to be vibrant and assertive, not aggressive. Okay, so assertive, but that doesn't mean also having to push back against other people. It just means that you had to use those tools. You had to be there. You had to overcome somebody not wanting you here physically. So you've already done that. That's the hard part. The rest is a piece of cake, quite literally, because you're going to bake. You do speak 5 or 6 languages, of course you do. And you do that very well because you have a lot of grace with Venus Sun. By the way, Venus Sun, for anyone here that's your mom's affair right there. Neptune and Venus on the sun. This is something sneaky going on in relationships. Venus rules the house of relationships. And Venus is hiding. Venus is under the beams, really heavily under the beams of the sun. So we're not seeing her so well. By the way, Venus is coming out of the beams now. So very soon we will have now she's no going into the beams now as she approaches the sun. So we're going to go through a similar kind of energy, but that will take place in Taurus and Gemini. I'll talk about that in another video. Okay, let's take another thing. I'll have a look at who's here. Sorry, it's still hiding from the sun. Doodly doo. Yes, intimidation. That's Pluto. Pluto Mars on the ascendant. I'm going to go way back and see who we've got there from ages ago. What have we got? 86. I'm going to try another decade. Here we have. Okay, so we have another 60s baby here. And that is Habiba. Hello, Habiba. That's such a great name. I think it means lovely or friendly, doesn't it, Habibi? Habiba? I love that. I follow this guy. He's gorgeous and he does this very funny channel called Arab Dad. If you don't know it, please watch it. It's just hysterical. Arab Dad. And he calls everybody Habibi. Habiba. Sorry, I just about said Habibi, thinking of Arab Dad. All right, here we are. So 4-5. Okay. So I'm hoping that that's 4th of May. Since you're from Afghanistan, I'm hoping you're using that. That I just need you to tell me quickly, is that 4th of May or is that 5th of April, 11:30 a.m. in Kabul. All right, so I just want to double check for the date to be absolutely sure before I. Oh, you know him? Yes, of course. He is hilarious. He is indeed. Okay, tell me, Habiba, is it 4th of May or is it 5th of April? Please just confirm that. April 5th. Okay, yeah, you see, this is why astrologers, especially me in Europe, I need to have the month spelled out, please, because otherwise it makes a lot of confusion because the US and Canada reverse the way they don't do it like unit, small, medium, large. They do the thing in reverse. So it doesn't fit the same pattern. All right, here we are. I hope you're all seeing this now with a Cancer rising with a ton of stuff going on in the 10th house. And the ruler of the 10th in the 6th house. So this is a busy beaver. And where's that moon? In Scorpio in the 5th house, also ruled by Mars in the 6th. Okay. So this is actually affecting your moon very powerfully by opposition. So this conjunction is in the house of your future, money that you earn. Now, given that Mars is ruling your 10th house, this might be very much conjunction might be very much connected to your work, the work that you do, and how you are earning money from that work. But it can also just as much be about your mom, relationship with your mom, or you becoming a mom. Yeah, oh, everybody watches Arab Dad. He's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. Right, and this is also in a sextile to your ascendant. So this is about you changing because your ascendant is also in a trine to the moon. So this is opposite your moon and in a sextile to your ascendant. So you're showing up in a different way for a new future. You have a different vision for your future. And because that moon is your chart ruler from the 5th house, something to do with children is playing a major role in that. But it can have this can also be something to do with your status, your marital status. So the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra in the 4th and 10th, there is a family pattern where relationship issues are really huge, but not necessarily easy. And I think there may be some issues here around your mom that you did not get along with your mom. So when we have the sun in Aries and the rising sign in Cancer, generally speaking, there can be tensions with the mother. The mother can be quite domineering or quite challenging, and there might be some kind of competitiveness where she's maybe can be even jealous of you, and but there can also be a big story, and I'm not just saying this because you're from Afghanistan, but this is a story when we have a sun in Aries and the ascendant in Cancer. We find stories of immigration, migration, and especially around conflict zones, wars and things, and having to move on the fly, as it were, having to move in a way that doesn't feel safe. It's not like, hey, let's move. It's like, we gotta move. And so there's definitely some tension from the lineage already. So this is unsettled home. We've got your Uranus is on the south node and it's conjunct the IC. So there's an unsettled relationship, an unsettled home life, not an easy gig from the get-go. And so what's going on right now is maybe triggering some of that in your own life, where you're finding that things are needing to change with regards to your either your place of residence or your marriage or your social status. Who's there? Have I got you, Habiba, sorry, Habiba. Um, I'm going to be channeling Arab Dad all night. So, Habiba, can you just flag me? Let me know if any of this is resonating with you. If there's something along those lines where your experience is about your relationship, perhaps, or a new source of a new way of seeing yourself in your social status. Because here we've got the North Node on the Sun, and it's been there for a month or two, quite a long time. And before that, it was on your Venus, and Venus today is with Chiron. Exactly, Chiron is exactly on your natal Venus. So there's something here around, it seems, around relationship. That's in a square to the ascendant descendant, the Chiron Venus on the Venus squaring ascendant descendant. So spot on. Okay, so yeah, this is about your future. Okay, so this is about using that energy. You've got Venus in, notice she's backing up into the sun. And so there maybe, again, here's something to do with your parents in general. It may be your father, because here again, there can be, with this particular configuration, there can be a sense that you were not wanted. And perhaps it was especially because your father was very occupied either with career or with other projects, and he didn't want to have a child at that time. And it may be something about time. It may, because Mars, which is ruling the 10th and ruling that Venus sun up there, is in your sixth house of work and makes you work, like lots of work. And Jupiter is not in great dignity. It's with Pluto in the third house, and showing that because Jupiter is ruling that sixth house. And it's showing again that there's this feeling of obligation and duty and commitment and work. Neptune has been opposing that, will be opposing that all this year. And last year and the year before was opposing your Pluto. And so there can be some family issues, some childhood issues that you're going to be working towards. Lots of healing happening with family. That's beautiful. That's wonderful, because this is the time. And this is the time. And I want you all to hear this, because it's really important to understand, however difficult things were, we see that, everybody's always doing the best that they can. And that everybody thinks that what they're doing is going to make them happy. And that includes even if they're being violent or if they're being abusive, they think that's a way of getting rid of their own pain, getting rid of their own, discomfort. They think that what they're doing is going to make them happy. And so it must never be taken personally. And that's really hard for some people, because it feels like, of course, it's like that was me. But at the same story, at the same time, the story is not about you. It's about how everybody else is trying to cope with life, and you just happen to be part of the story. So the first step towards deep healing with the family is to depersonalize a lot and to enter into a space of compassion and trying to understand as much as possible about what your parents were going through, which was not easy. This is really, it shows that your father was going through a lot here. You say you were actually named after your dad. So there's a deep connection there with your dad. But again, we've got Chiron in Aries. Chiron is with the North Node, so healing is actually part of your destiny. It is in opposition really tightly with Uranus. Chiron opposing Uranus does show some tension with authority figures in fourth to the 10th, especially. But that opposition alone, so lots of tension around authority figures, but at the same time, wanting to have boundaries, wanting to have some kind of authority figure to bump up against. And so this might have been his experience of work. Mars is trining his sun. That I'm speaking multi-layer here. So this is your chart. I'm looking at your dad at the time that you're born. So Mars is trining the sun from the house of the sixth house of work, and really dominating the sun in a way, because it's in the rulership of the sun from the sixth. And And the sun itself is exalted. So career was huge for your dad. It was really important. Um, yeah, well done. Yeah, I believe it is our responsibility to understand and transcend our charts. I agree with you there. Yeah, the chart is just to show you, oh, look, this happened. But don't identify with it. Don't listen to yourself. You don't go around saying, oh, I have this, and therefore I am like that. Don't use that. That's an excuse. That's not a healthy way of using astrology. So here, I think to summarize, we have a lot going on in terms of a fresh idea for your future, something that you're envisaging that is new and different for you as you show up in a different way for how you relate to your where you live, your house and home, also how you relate to your mom, yourself as a mother potentially as well. And then that is also in a trine to Pluto. It's a pretty broad trine to Jupiter. Jupiter trine Jupiter. You'll feel that later. I think you could kind of say it's part of this, but it's very broad. Even the opposition to Neptune is quite broad, but again, it can show a an opportunity. You have a Neptune trine right now, so it's an opportunity to live through compassion. And he passed on 20 years ago. Yeah, you can still heal your relationship with your dad and for your dad. Our ancestors are very much alive and living in us. And since you have a south node in the fourth house, conjunct your IC, that's part of your story, is your family lineage, your homeland, relationship energy as well. All right, so we'll go find somebody else now. Thank you for that. I'm going to have to leave it be because I'm realizing that time is ticking on and I need to be able to see some more people. What were we doing? 69. Let's take some other generation. Mm. All right, so we have 79. So did we do 79? I think we'll try 79. Somebody called Fly from Istanbul, so we'll do that. Mm-hmm. Hang on, sorry, my brain is slowly shutting down, so I'm going to put Fly. 18 September 1979 at 13:15. And that's beautiful Istanbul, another wonderful city. There we go. All right, 18 September 79, 13:15 in Istanbul. Let's go. All right. Right, you've just had the South Node crossing your Pluto. So before I go into the rest, and that is a pattern that you want to break away from. The South Node is having you let go of unhelpful habits when it crosses Pluto, things that are undermining your well-being, in this case, in terms of your future, or in terms of friendships and the way that you relate to people, because with Pluto in the 11th, there's also this feeling, again, of not fitting in. And it's very interesting because people who use astrology often don't fit in. And that's one of the reasons people get drawn to astrology, because they're kind of this feeling like, why is life so hard? And so again, that's often the people who are really spiritual, really creative, and really open-minded are the ones who don't fit in, and they have to figure that out. You do have Venus in the 11th, so you have friends. It's not that you don't. It's just that there may be this feeling of not being able to be consistent with friends, or maybe you're feeling like you've got friends who are you're not necessarily yourself with your friends. For example, you're maybe feeling you have to accommodate your friends. Where's Jupiter? Hello. Oh, yes, Jupiter in Leo, ruling the ascendant, and Jupiter's with the moon. And Uranus itself is being opposed, but so you've already had your natal Uranus. 2022 would have been quite interesting for you. June, July, August, September, October, and then again in early 2023. That's when things really shook up for you. And especially because that's now the first opposition with Uranus is done. That's you're moving away from that. That won't happen again. But now Uranus is moving into a square with your moon very tightly this year. It will be squaring your moon pretty much all this year, then squaring Jupiter, and then trining your, it has been trining your Saturn, and now it will trine your Sun. So that suggests there's a lot of change around work that might also imply moving, might imply a change of a change of home. And since Pluto is moving into the third house, that can be part of that, where there's this a change of your surroundings. Your third house is like your community. Pluto has been not so much this year, but last year and the year before. Pluto is opposite Mars. That's not a comfortable transit. It's intensely emotional. So here's something to do with money, shared resources, and challenges. Now Pluto is trining Venus, and that's where the moon is right now. So there's maybe a new relationship or some new energy around relationship. Saturn was hovering around your south node a lot of last year, and it flew through in sort of February. Hang on, I just need to see I'm trying to use two screens here so I can see better where the questions are, but it's not always coming through. I got myself a new laptop thinking I would upgrade, but actually I much prefer my old one because my new one just doesn't operate in the same way and it drives me nuts. So here we are. Luxury problems. All right, so have we got Fly in the chat? I hope so. Fulia. Fulia is your real name. Hello, Fulia. Just let me know. Just give me a kind of a sense of the last 2 years because that'll help me understand where we're going with this because that will very much depend on the way that things are looking because it looks like you've gone through quite a lot of upheaval and change, and that can include around home and family or even your mom, where your parents in general. Okay, so on point. All right, let's keep going then. So the Jupiter-Uranus can change your sense of your future or yourself in terms of where you live, and there may be a need to move, like I said, for work or desire to move for work. But this would actually be quite helpful for you. You know, Jupiter is going into your seventh, which will bring you some really interesting opportunities with business partnerships as well. It's your chart ruler. Again, your ascendant ruler is what you're supposed to say. Ascendant ruler. It's going to come up to a square with your midheaven square. You've got Mercury on the midheaven, very strong Mercury, by the way, so that's really helpful. Squaring the midheaven. So it will first square your Sun, then square your Mercury on midheaven. Then Jupiter's going to move in. So the last week of May and the first week of June is going to be really interesting for you, really, really awesome. The last 10 days or even the last half of May, because there's going to be a real boost in terms of your career. And Jupiter will then move into the seventh house, which can shift the energy around partnerships of all kinds. And then that will be in a trine with Venus. And that will happen as well with the Sun and Venus. So you're going to have a Jupiter, Venus, Sun conjunction trine your Venus. And that will have just trined your midheaven and Mercury, which rules that seventh house. So that's really lovely. So I think this is just kind of triggering something that's actually going to move into a bigger feature of the year ahead with regards to work and partnerships. It can be business partners, but yeah, not been easy the last couple of years, that's for sure. I'm just trying to figure out kind of how. Yeah, I think money plays a bit of a role there. So you're going to have that Pluto is moving back into your second house, and when it does that in September, October, and let's face it, most of November, that's going to be then in a trine to your midheaven, Mercury, and Sun. Well, no, it won't be in a trine to your Sun. It'll be too broad, but it'll be midheaven Mercury, and that's going to be sextiling your IC. So whatever was the theme of the last couple of years, around money and around change, you're tying that up now. You're figuring that out, and you're tying that up. You do have this year and all the last couple of years, you've had Neptune in a trine to your natal Mars, which is confusing. It's not easy in terms of which direction to take, in terms of money, shared resources. All my problems are about careers, so great to hear. Yeah, but keep in mind we have to take action. So it won't happen without you taking action. You have a Sagittarius ascendant, so I think you take action. It's not that I don't think you don't, but you're shy about it because your comfort zone is in hiding away and not really in putting yourself out there. You feel obligated. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. So I just have to find my magic tablets. There we go. I get these things in India. Every time I go to India, I buy these amazing Ayurvedic remedies for the throat. It helps me not choke. Yeah, so I think you're going to have this opportunity, whatever it is, but you will have to take action. When Jupiter goes into the quadrant houses 1, 4, 7, and 10, great new things can happen, but you need to be proactive, and you are Jupiter. It is your chart ruler. So Jupiter is kind of representing you. It's like your Kartika as it's moving through the house. So you're going into a new one-year cycle of relationships. And I forgot to mention that that's also in a trine to Pluto in the last week of May and especially the first week of June. So that's coming from your third house of associations and your goals. You are striking out, having new goals. Yeah, and Saturn was on your south node in the fourth house. So that's putting more structure to how you support yourself. What do I need to feel secure? Saturn in the 10th, especially close to the sun like that, it shows that often what you chose in the past was based on what your family wanted for you, or what you thought your what you thought your role should be. Like it feels more like an obligation than a choice. You do have a great Jupiter, though. It's in the ninth house. Jupiter loves the ninth house. So you do have aspirations and a great an optimism. But there can be a certain amount of impulsiveness as well with that Jupiter ruling the ascendant and the Neptune in trine to the moon and Jupiter with the moon. It can have you kind of being overly optimistic about stuff. And then what happens is that, yeah, I feel fine. It's just that I'm talking a lot. I'm not sick. It's just I'm losing my voice from talking. But thank you. I feel better for you having said that. Yeah, so the moon there in Jupiter is moon with Jupiter in the ninth. It can have you feeling like you should always be happy, like seeking happiness, trying to figure out how can I be happy? And actually, the part of the lesson here in life is to accept being in a role of service. North Node in the 10th house, taking responsibility. North Node in Virgo, being of service. And not playing a role of victim. This is another axis that's very active in your chart. Is the victim martyr axis. This again was part of your family story. It's in a square to your ascendant. Part of your family story overall that you were born into, meaning that so it's not entirely your own story, but it's part of what you're coming in here to deal with. And so don't martyr yourself to what your family wants you to do, is kind of what I'm saying here. I'm not sure if I'm getting Fly says I also want to live abroad. Yeah, with your chart ruler in the ninth and the moon in the ninth, you should. Uranus is in the 12th. Yeah, it would do you well. But it's living abroad for work because it's the sun that is ruling your ninth house. But you have to be a little bit organized now in this period of time, next month, let's say, or going forward, so that you can take advantage of these opportunities. Because the opportunities are there, but they don't come knocking. What else have we got here? I think that's it. Yeah, Jupiter's going to square your nodes by about July. Maybe you'll already be feeling that in June. And Jupiter squaring the nodes from the house of the seventh house of relationship will be just before Jupiter crosses the descendant. And therefore, you will have opportunities around relationships coming from, connections with people that will feed into your ambition, your personal goals out in the world, your personal ambition as well as your social status and career ambition. But before that, again, middle of May, and towards the end of May, right up until about the 26th, 27th, just as Jupiter's crossing the threshold between your house of work and everyday activity into your seventh house of relationship, it's trining your midheaven with the Mercury that's ruling it, and then trining that Venus. So that's where we really want to set yourself up to be ready for new plans there. Yes, my body's telling me to stop. Yes, I can't go and make that honey ginger. Thanks very much, but I'll do that later. I just wanted to read a few charts with you. I will do one more, and then we will. Thank you, Jane Doe. Yes, go to my website. Go ahead. I do readings. I do, of course, that's what I do mostly. I'll do one more. I'm just going to choose a decade that we haven't had for a while. So we had 60s, 70s, 80s. Maybe we'll try and find a 90s, maybe. Somebody's put in a time without a year, so I can't make a chart that way. I'll go to the ones kind of up at the top. All right, we've got Mish, who's from 1990. That's good for a change. And Mish was very sweet to say, that's that Piscean quality, saying get better. All right, here we are. So March 6th and 1990 in Halifax. My dad lives in Halifax. Isn't that funny? He lives in Dartmouth, actually. I never lived there myself. Oh, did the wrong thing there. I never lived there myself. He moved there later on, 34. Oh, I have to say Canada because they don't recognize provinces. Funny. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. So you've got Saturn on your Sun today, and I mean, really all this last month. And then it'll continue for another couple of weeks, so you'll still be feeling that. And then Saturn goes over your midheaven. And the Saturn-Mars conjunction was a degree away, or yeah, a degree and a half away from that. And that was also trining your ascendant, that conjunction. It was right in the midpoint between your ascendant and moon in Cancer. So a Cancer moon on the ascendant, very strong moon. So there's a lot of variability in your life, and there's a lot of change in terms of your career as well. Mars is in with Saturn in Capricorn, so that's a lot of determination and drive. It's with Neptune and Uranus on the other side of the descendant, so it suggests that there has been some disappointment in relationships and some challenge. Now, it's worth saying that when Saturn is in the seventh house, we can often have 50s babies. I didn't see any 50s. Yeah, I'll look for some. Okay, I didn't see anybody from 1950. I would have wanted to choose from 1940s as well, if you have somebody's out there. Yeah, when Saturn is in the seventh house, we do find that there is often, it's not that the partnership can't happen, but especially because Neptune and Mars is on either side of Saturn, and the outer planets should really be seen as not necessarily cooperative because they often bring out challenges, especially in the beginning of life. So there can be a lot of disappointment and delay and problems in relationship. Um, and since Chiron is on the ascendant, I think it also has a lot to do with a feeling of insecurity around oneself. There's a lot of issues in, like, karmically in your family, around the whole story of family. Your lineage is playing a huge role in your chart. The South Node in Leo suggests a similar thing with regards to the father side of the family, and also family in general, because the second house is also family, and the axis of money, the money and value axis. And Pluto is squaring your nodes. And so that Pluto in the fifth house is one of the things that you're here to really learn. And Pluto is trining your moon. So it's about learning how to show up as yourself. And now with the Jupiter and Uranus opposing that Pluto, it's a broad opposition, but it's still an opposition that's like a 5-degree opposition. So really, really relevant. It's opposing the Pluto. It's in a trine to your Mars and Saturn conjunction. It's in a sextile to your moon, and in a trine to your IC, and sextiling your MC. So this is a really big moment for you. It's about Pluto in the fifth is about being recognized, showing up. It's about being able to be yourself and be seen as being yourself. But there can be this frustration around that because it is the square to the nodes and it's ruled by Mars. And Mars is somehow hampered in a little way by that Saturn. Saturn being limitation or authority or some kind of feeling of not allowing. There can be tension there. Mish, you've got a maybe a South Asian name. Are you from a South Asian family? I don't know if that's a nickname, but that can be a part of the story here. Certainly with the sun up in the ninth house, the sun is in its joy. It's really happy in the ninth house, and it's on the midheaven. So also partly you're here to express something about yourself through what you might describe as higher wisdom, or you're working through your principles, if you like. Your principles are really important for you, and since Jupiter rules your or we could say principles and beliefs are really important for you. And since your Jupiter is in good dignity, it's right at the beginning of your first house in Cancer, it's really strong dignity, and it's in opposition to Uranus. It means that your belief system is different to whatever your family raised you with, or at least you're a bit more open. Canadian, both European and Indigenous. Okay. Is Mish your nickname, or is that your real name? Or maybe I missed that. Work in education. Yeah, brilliant. Ninth house. That's brilliant. My passion is art and painting. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. That's Pluto in the fifth with the ruler in the first house, and then Jupiter ruling your ninth house from the first as well. That's brilliant. So you're inspiring others in creative realms despite being in a non-creative profession. So this is, I think, the thing that's going to change. Now, keep this in mind. It's a longer arc because you've got Saturn on your sun, and it's 3 times this year that you're going to have. Ah, yeah, it's your nickname. Okay, Michelle Louise. Okay, I like Mish. Yeah, it's cute. Okay, Michelle. So you have Saturn on your sun 3 times and Saturn on your midheaven 3 times this year. Saturn is going to be trining your moon 3 times. Voilà, c'est ça, Michel. Oui. And so you have this. Are you Mi'kmaq as well? You're from Nova Scotia Indigenous? I don't know. There's a number out there, but anyway. So this is going to change your future. This is a really big shift for you right here, because Saturn going back and forth over your midheaven, where it stations at 19 degrees, so 1 degree off your midheaven, stationing, and in a trine to your moon, stationing, then it'll retrograde all the way back to a trine to your ascendant at 12 degrees of Pisces, okay, to 12 degrees of the ascendant in Cancer. So this is a really big year where the focus of this year, and I mean the whole of 2024, is on changing your sense of what is my purpose? What am I here for? This is really interesting. And Jupiter Uranus, I invite you to think really big. Think in terms of what would I like to do if I didn't have to do this job for this money or whatever? What would I like to do? Jupiter is ruling your sixth house of everyday work, and it rules your ninth house of purpose, where we find your sun and your midheaven. And so this transit is really rocking your boat here, and it can be an absolute gem of a year for you. But you really want to get to the point where you are living through that creativity, making a living through that creativity, because you can. Jupiter opposite Uranus is also really creative stuff. Um, you feel that drastically, yeah. So you want to, oh, she's Métis from Manitoba. Okay. So so go big with this. Go big with this. Um, Yeah, and so there is some issues here around overly accommodating or helping people, picking up strays. Be careful of that. Neptune on the descendant, Saturn, Mars. You may have relationships that are not entirely good for you in the beginning of your life, where they actually cost you something. They cost you energy or time or whatever. Um, and so you're learning through that as well. As part of the learning curve, there's kind of no way to get around that. Um, when Jupiter moves into your 12th house, it's going to be squaring your Mercury, your Sun, and your midheaven. And that, because it's ruling those placements, it's going to bring you a lot of opportunities coming from a spiritual place, coming from a place of maybe working behind the scenes, again, working creatively. Mercury is ruling that Jupiter, that's called a mutual reception. So Jupiter going through your 12th house will be received by Mercury, and Mercury itself is received by Jupiter. And since you have a Jupiter in good dignity, um, this is really, really good. And you have a day chart, which means that Jupiter brings you the best results. Now you have Pluto on your Venus. The Venus is the challenging part for you. So because Venus is not your greatest benefic because you have a day chart, and because Mars is the most challenging aspect of the day chart. Saturn helps you, but Mars is a little bit pesky. It's super dynamic and can give you a lot of drive, but it can also create some issues around relationships. So both that Venus and Mars can create some issues around relationships. So remembering this, find your sense of self-confidence, that Chiron in the ascendant shows that there's some wounding around the family and that there's some wounding around your identity. It's in an opposition to Uranus. So there's again this message of pushback or feeling of rebelliousness that might have something to do with your father. Your father may not have been fully present, or he may not have been super engaged in your life at times. And so you have to find your inner father. And this is what Saturn will help you do right now. You've already had this happening, but you were a child. So whatever was happening in 95 or 6, um, that would have been a time where something happened with your father that was similar to what's going on now. And you can extrapolate that to your career or your sense of identity. But this is going to be a great year. And I think this is, you just moved last month, set up a new painting space, do the creative thing. This is definitely good for you. Ninth, you've got the South Node in the second. The old part of your life, the old way of looking, Dad was not present, but I'm forgiving him now. Yeah, perhaps also an alcohol problem there in a sextile to Neptune. But yeah, he's doing his best. He's this good man. That's, we can see he's a good man. He's not a bad person. He's not able to be present, and I think there's a wounding with his own father there. And so um, with and authority in general. And so here we have, because there's this trine there with Pluto. But that Pluto that's by transit and with your North Node in the eighth house, you can go towards things that are much more off. Yes, alcoholic. Military, missed a lot of my childhood. You moved a lot of times, 24 times in 34 years. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Mercury rules your third house and it's in detriment, which is not enough to make things challenging, except that Mercury is also sextiling Uranus, and your that yeah, that Chiron in the house in the Cancer, which represents family, is pain, some kind of pain in childhood and in the family. And your dad was only 18. He's a child. He was a baby having a baby. Yeah. So this is, you see how these things work. It's like, it's just not, um, it's nobody's fault. People just doing things that they don't realize the consequences of. Um, right. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. Carry on with this. Um, I'm going to call it spiritual and artistic stuff that it might also be slightly esoteric or occult things as well. But family healing, family transformation is what Pluto's bringing to you. Healing relationships, healing your values. North Node in the eighth is about a lifelong path to healing family challenges overall. Healing about fitting in, it's Aquarius. Healing about belonging. All right. I hope that helps you there. And I'll move on and I will do one last one just because she asked so nice. Oh, you were a twin. My God, can you imagine at 18 having twins? Poor guy. That would lead anybody to drink, wouldn't it? So yeah, lots of love to you and to your dad. That I think that relationship would serve you well to heal it because it'll bring you back into your solar masculine energy too. Okay, we're going to take Cardiff here. Cheryl. Cheryl, have we had a reading? Does that looks like a name I know. Have we had a reading? Because if we've had a reading, then I don't. Yeah. Okay, Michelle, you're very welcome. Diddly dee. Yeah, I just didn't want to do a reading if we've already had one because I'm trying to kind of spread the love a little bit. Um, mm, mm, where did I see that? Okay, here we go. 57. Why do I know that name? Cheryl, did we meet? Have we had a yeah? Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to go to another one because where did I find the other 50s baby? There was another one here. I just saw it. Where did I see it? Doodly-doo. There we go. March 20th, 1957 in Cleveland, Ohio. Helen. Hello, Helen. There we go. This will be the last one. Promise, 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 because it's now been two and a bit hours. 20th of March, 1957. Lots of March here. But this could be an Aries, actually, maybe. And 12:02 p.m. in Cleveland. Never been to Cleveland, so I haven't got much to say about Cleveland. All right, so 20th of March, 1957. 12:02. We're good. There we are. This is Helen. All right, another Cancer rising. Look at that. And this time, oh, and again, the sun is in Pisces this time with Mercury and Venus and the midheaven piling all together. Neptune is really affecting you very strongly. So there may be some confusion as to what you're aiming for right now. Saturn will help you sort that out, but it'll be more towards 2025 that you get to that point where you really have to take decisions. You personally have been strongly affected by Saturn in the last couple of months, and Saturn will be stationing at 12 degrees towards the end of this year. When is it? I should have a list of all these things. When is Saturn stationing? Um, yeah. So anyway, Saturn will be stationing. I thought I had it here, but I didn't bring my list of dates for retrogrades and things. Anyway, at 12 degrees. And so it goes up to 19 degrees, almost towards your midheaven, and then it stations at 12. So it's in a trine to your north node. You will feel this as of next year more the Saturn crossing the midheaven, Venus, and then later on with both Saturn and Neptune on your Sun and Mercury next year. Then you're going to have the North Node with Venus and Neptune on your Sun and Mercury. So best way through this is that you either become extremely spiritual, which I think you inherently are already, or that you also work in a creative way, which the North Node is asking you to do, by the way. And since you have Jupiter, Uranus opposing that North Node, conjunct the South Node, you're leaving a way of being, you're leaving a vision for your future. Now, Jupiter rules your ninth house and it rules your house of work, your sixth house. So that's important because whatever this 11th house is potentially a source of income for you, depending on what you do. So there's something new in your future. There's something very different or a new source of income, a new way of envisaging what you do going forward. And now, of course, that is also in a lovely sextile to your midheaven, which is ruled by Jupiter, and in a trine to your third house, I see. So that's going to perhaps call in something to do with your creative skills, something that you might need to rejig in terms of income to get the best out of that. I'm not going to take any more charts, so thank you for all your applications, but please stop putting the dates in. This is my last one for the night, so I can save my voice for tomorrow. But thank you, everybody. Yeah, so this is quite an interesting opportunity for you because it's about letting go of an old dream, letting go of an old way of being perhaps overly concerned with what other people think and overly concerned about the future potentially also, and coming into your creativity, coming into your sense of self. Now, the North Node in the fifth house, if you're already a 57 baby, then I'd say that you're well on your way to figuring that part of you out. But this is going to emphasize that quite strongly. You might already be quite a creative type. So Jupiter is on the IC in retrograde, not great dignity. Simply, the reason that I point that out is because then often we have to work hard. So Helen, I'm retired. I've done a lot of healing around parents and my children. Yeah, so this is the theme right now, I think. There's something here that is going to highlight this North Node, something about letting go of the South Node. Taurus ruled by the Venus there in the ninth house on the midheaven. Mm, 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 mm. You also may have had some issues with your dad. And your mom, for that matter. The moon is opposing Mars and in the sixth house with Saturn. Moon in Sagittarius shows a mother that's extremely preoccupied elsewhere or that has other visions for her own life, that has other dreams. And so this might be part of what you're healing as well. It's not just healing your own experience of your children, but also healing yourself in your experience as a child. That might have something to do with siblings as well. Or maybe that sometimes with these kinds of things, it's that a sibling was a challenge to a parent. And with Mars there in Gemini in the 12th house, and then the Jupiter retrograding from not a great dignity backwards into the IC, there may have been a loss of a child. Your mother may have lost a child before you were born, and that made her a little distant and potentially even depressed. We have Saturn in a sextile to Chiron in the 8th from the 6th house where the moon is as well. So your mom was feeling kind of duty bound. Lots of issues around dad. Yeah, I wonder about your mom too. Because I think she wasn't having an easy time when you were born. And then of course that we feel that's about us, right? We grow up feeling like in some way that we can't, that we're not lovable. And your moon is in a square to Pluto. So again, there might be a suggestion that either there was some issue around life and death stuff, because this is creating a T-square now with the moon opposite Mars squaring Pluto. Moon is in a trine to Uranus. Your dad may have left because that's the Leo house. And that Pluto is in conjunct with your sun. So yeah, Helen, I think this could be part of this thing, this kind of new vision for your future. And the 11th house is the house of gains as well, but it's also about gaining in a bigger sense of life, like not necessarily gaining from income. For example, mom and dad immigrants from Lithuania after World War II. That's hard for sure. So challenges, and that would be there would be somebody in the family, or perhaps a brother or a child that was lost, that was still active around the time that she was carrying you and the time that she had you. So uh, this is pain, and it's family pain, because we're looking at Chiron in the eighth, and with Black Moon Lilith, there may have been issues around the marriage too, but this is family secrets as well, or family trauma. And then Mars in the 12th house too can represent that. And since Mars is ruled by Mercury with the Sun, that can be something to do about fathers as well. So yeah, Cheryl, I thought so. Yeah, yeah. Thanks a million. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give it to people who haven't met yet. Um, Right. So yeah, so you see the thing here, the North Node is taking you in a new direction, new ambitions, new sense of your role out in the world. And especially as you're retiring now, you've got to redefine what that role is. And that's happening now, but it's also going to continue to happen in 2025. Well, the North Node then moves into that ninth house, as I said before. And so you're redefining your role, you're redefining what you're doing and what your purpose is in life. You're kind of recreating yourself at this stage. And that Saturn is going to help you with that. So it might feel uncomfortable, but the discomfort is because it's time to move on. It's time to change. Um, and that Pluto, sorry, the Jupiter and Pluto conjunction will be a really big part of this. It's insightful. It might even be enough like what we're doing right here, right now, to just give you a sense of, okay, I'm ready for something new. But I think you could actually find that this, at least this year ahead, and certainly in the next decade or 14 years of the cycle, that you're really feeling you're on a completely different, you're in a new place now. The last conjunction happened on your Mercury Sun. So go back to 2010 and 2011. That was on your Mercury Sun, and that was going to change enormously. That was in a trine to your moon. So whatever that represented for you, trining your Uranus, trining your moon, and conjunct your Sun and Mercury the last time. So notice what that was about. That whatever that was about, you're finishing that now. You're done. Moving on. Right. And then there's a new sense of aims and ambitions, new set of goals when when the Sun, Venus, and Jupiter move in to the 12th house together in a trine to Pluto, which is trining your Mars for all of this year, all of 2024 and into 2025. And it will be conjoining your Mars at the same time. So you'll have this really strong sense of new goals, new ambitions. Next year, not this year, but next year, you will feel very strongly the opposition. You'll start to feel it this year, but the opposition from Pluto to Uranus will be like a game changer as well. That will change a lot, and that's in it's creating a T-square with your Neptune, which is already squaring Uranus. And so the spiritual solution, the issue around children, your relationship to your mother as a child, your creativity, the perhaps grandchildren even. It's all part of this dynamic of big time change in terms of what you share with others, family issues, family secrets. Okay, your mother died February 2011. That's exactly what this is. Yeah. So that cycle is done. I'm stuck about finding the creativity and releasing karma with your Scorpio daughter. Well, your Scorpio daughter is your North Node. So you're here to find each other in some way. So this could be an opportunity. And that the 11th house with rulership of Venus, beautiful Venus in really strong dignity in Pisces. In the ninth house, it's time to raise your philosophy, raise the vision that you have for yourself and for your life, and allow for a higher vision, allow for new values, because this is also about values. What do I value? And if there are issues around money, there may be. issues around money, meaning, issues around lack or challenge or power games. Pluto will sort that out. It's time to let go. It's time to let go. Life is short. Don't have battles around money. And having this opposition to Uranus in the square to Neptune, where it's in the fifth house, develop some compassion and try to understand why your daughter might be struggling, why there is some kind of issue between you and your daughter. The North Node in the fifth house in Scorpio, ruled by that Mars in Gemini, it is showing that there's something here that is about a family issue, a family lineage issue that might have something to do with siblings of some kind, or cousins, or loss of a child. And so there might be something that's really underlying all of that. I'm not seeing any other comments from Helen, but you can do family constellations work, and that really helps a lot. I really recommend family constellations as much as anyone can afford to do them, or do them, because it brings an enormous amount. So everybody, I'm so happy you were here. I'm losing my voice and I'm losing daylight, so it's time for me to go take the dog for a walk. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in a future live stream, and otherwise in the next video.